Hello everyone, this is a breakdown and analysis of my Young Learners class in China from yesterday. This is a live in-person class. I'll go through the background of the class, some of the challenges I had, ideas I thought for improvement, and basically the average age for this class is 6 years old. There was only one student who was like 5.8 years old, so they're almost 6 years old. The total students I had in the class was 9 students. It's a fairly big class, and the class is 1 hour long. One of the things that happened was that there was no TA, so it made it a little bit more challenging because when you're teaching and you don't have a TA to do those small things, like keep everyone's attention when you're trying to teach a certain topic, it makes it a little bit challenging, like bathroom and things like that. I've taught this specific lesson before, however, it was a smaller class size. Before, when I taught this same topic, it went very smoothly, and I'm trying to remember if I had a TA or not. I think I did, and it went very smoothly. But this class was a little bit more hectic in that there were 4 boys and 5 girls, and all 4 of the boys were a little bit rowdy. And every time I tried to get them back on track, they would get back on track, but then immediately when I turn my back to write something on the board, they go back to misbehaving. So I'll discuss some of those things as well. The topic for the class was hobbies. So things like riding my bike, reading, playing games. Those were the hobbies. The topic was hobbies. And this is their second language. So Chinese Mandarin is probably their first language unless they speak another dialect at home. And then English will be their second language that they're learning. And so I'll start at the beginning, pre-class. So normally pre-class, I'll always check homework. And I'll take off the homework. Normally, I would have a TA that asks all the students if they need to go to the bathroom, if they need water. So if they go to the bathroom and they get their water, then during class they don't have to leave class to go get water. Later on this is normally done by the TA. So because I didn't have a TA that wasn't done, I should have thought of that ahead of time. Since earlier in the day, another teacher actually asked me to help her to bring like 5 students to go to the bathroom during when I was just walking by. So I should have anticipated this problem, which I did not. So that's something for future improvements is if I don't have a TA, I need to personally go and ask every student if they need to go to the bathroom. And if they go to the bathroom during class, they'll basically lose 3 stars. So stars is like a reward system for the students for good behavior. And then if they do something that you don't want them to do, then they'll get their stars removed. So most students do not want their stars taken away. So pre-class, I'll check their homework, and if I have a TA, if it's a TA that's been trained properly, they'll take out all of their book and put it on the small desk, and then I'll check all the homework. So I was able to check through half of them, and then like some of the class started coming in late. So during the class, there's 9 students, and basically it's all sitting on small little chairs, and I'll have them come to the board, write their name, and a lot of times they'll write their names, but they don't have their handwriting isn't quite proficient. Like it's not a very neat handwriting, so I guess they're not at the age where their muscle memory or their motor skills aren't fine enough, aren't well developed enough for them to write neatly, and also their spatial perception at this age is not as good as an older student. So what would happen is they would write really close to the edge of the board, and they run out of room to write their names. So that's something that'll happen quite frequently with young learners below 6 years old. And so this topic was hobbies, and normally I'll go over and I'll drill all the flashcards with them, and then as a class. So I drill all the flashcards, and most of them, like 7 or 8 of them, know the flashcards very well, and then maybe 1 or 2 just really lag behind. Those specific students, you can really try to help them. However, they never do their homework at home, and that might also be like their parents not really making sure that they're doing their homework. So I just have this one student that doesn't do their homework, and I always emphasize like, hey, do your homework, and so it's just something that if you don't do your homework, you don't get your practice outside of class. You just wait until class time to learn. It makes it more challenging. So the activity that I had planned for the hobbies was to use a fly swatter. So basically, the target language for the students to learn is what do you like doing? And then they would answer, I like reading. And then it's like there'll be a follow-up question. It's like, why? And it's fun, it's boring. It's fun if they like it, and it's boring if they don't like it. So this will be like I forgot which lesson this was, but basically they've learned the target language multiple times before. So this will be like another reinforcement to learn this target language. So I would start off, and then I would hit a flashcard using a fly swatter, and I would ask, what do you like doing? So maybe I'll hit the reading flashcard, and the class would say, I like reading, and I'll ask a follow-up question, why? And then they'll say, it's fun, if they like it. If they say, I don't like reading, they'll say, it's boring, after I ask them why. So that is pretty much a very easy way to get them to produce an answer. So if I want them to ask the question, then I would have one of the students come up and use the fly swatter, and they'll be like a little teacher, and then they'll have the fly swatter, and they will hit the flashcard, and they will ask the question to the class, like, what do you like doing? So they'll hit, and then the class will answer this time, and then they'll ask a follow-up question, why? And then the class will answer, it's fun, it's boring, depending on if they like it or they don't like it. I have to reduce the number of times they can ask. So there's like 6 hobbies, and if it's a smaller class, I can have them do more flashcard. They can ask the question more times per student, so each student can ask maybe for like 3 to 6 times, depending on the class size. If it's like less than 6 students, I might have them do it more times, like 3 to 6 times, maybe all the flashcards, depending on how small it is. If it's 4 students, I might have them hit all of them. But this is a 9-student class, so I just had them hit it twice. So I asked it twice, and that took up a lot of time. And most of them were able to use the language and ask it properly. And eventually, as you get through it, they kind of get bored if you do too much. That's why I switched it down to 2. They ask the question twice. Like they'll do 2 flashcards per student using the fly swatter. So it reduces their kind of like repetition. So and then I had a next activity, but I noticed that the time was I wasn't on track for time. So the next activity, I would toss a soft die, like it's a huge, like almost like a pillow die, like a die like 1 through 6 that has all the little dots on it. to show the numbers. And so I would toss it to one student, and then I would ask, what do you like doing? And then they have to give me something they like doing. So if they like riding their bikes, I like riding my bike. And then our follow-up question is why? They'll say it's fun. So I go through each one of those students, and so then they produce it without being robotic, where you hit a specific flashcard and they say it, but they are actually giving their own personal likes and dislikes. So I went through all of them. Originally, in my lesson plan, I had wanted to have the students take turns tossing the die to maybe a few students, maybe 2 or 3. However, I was looking at time and I didn't have time, so I switched. I just did it once as myself, and I tossed it to each student, and each student answered, and they actually really enjoyed this specific one. I think the reason being is it's like something fresh and something new, because the fly swatter, I've been teaching this specific class for about 2 months or so, and then there's been 2 new students that joined, and the game that I've always used consistently with them is using a fly swatter, and then they hit the flashcard. So the flashcard will have a picture and the word associated with it. So if it's like reading, they'll have like someone reading a book. So that's the fly swatter game that I've been using for like 2 months. So I think they sometimes get bored of that game. So this new dice game, they really liked it. It's more so the fly swatter game, it's a teacher to class interaction pattern, so they can produce more. However, if it's a very big class, it's hard for me to hear if they're saying everything correctly, because you have 9 students and you can't see if they're pronouncing it all correctly. The only thing that I can really tell is if they're not speaking at all. Then I really call out their name and I have them, like I call them out so that they can speak and do production. With the dice game, where I toss it to one student, it's just teacher to student, so it's just one to one, and I guess it helps me to be able to identify if they're saying it correctly. It's not the ideal interaction pattern to use consistently because you want all the students to produce as much as possible. So that's the dice game, and then after that, I went on to going over Magic E. So we've gone over Magic E many times. So the Magic E, the letters that we went over was the O. So O says all, and then Magic O says O. And the other one, I believe it was I. And then so I says I, and I says I for the Magic E one. So I would write that on the board, have the class go over it, and then I would write associated words like not, naata, not, naota, note, so that they can kind of visually see it, and it reinforces what they've learned before. This Magic E concept is brought up over and over. I would do concept checking questions. So as a new English learners, they might sometimes confuse like note. They might say noti. So I intentionally ask them, is it note or noti? And they will say, no, it's a note. And this really kind of emphasizes by telling them the wrong one, that that's the wrong one. Don't use that one. So it's funny to them, and they kind of get the point that that's the wrong way to say it. So I emphasize that I use CCQs, concept checking questions, with the Magic E words. So I think I only picked one student, the weakest students, to kind of go through some of the sounds, the letter sounds for the letters, and then the Magic E letters. I just wanted to make sure that she understood it, because most of the students understood it. And then I had an activity where basically it was a little tiny flashcard cutouts, paper cutouts that I cut out that had 6 Magic E words. So it's like kit, kite, not, note, and I forgot what the other 2 were, but basically they were Magic E words, so they had to pick the right one. So I had two sets. So this particular game, I had placed so I would put it on two sides, and then I would put a bell on the other side. So the two students would start next to the bell, then they would run and go find a specific word that I called out. So I might say note, 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 and then they have to go find the word note, the flashcard, and then they would grab notes and they'll say naota, note. So they would blend and segment the word, they would grab the letter, and then they would run back, put the tiny flashcard down, the paper flashcard down, and then they would ring the bell, and then they would wait for the next one, and I would call out all six. So there were some students that still kind of messed up the words with and without the magic E. So they might have, like, if I called out kit, they might have picked up kite instead. So that's something that, even though they might be able to pronounce like the magic E letters, like the pronunciation of the sound, they'll know like O says, for magic E, O says O, right? Na ota, note. They still have not associated it enough times with the actual words yet. So that's something that I'll need to kind of work on more with this class, and I'll have to think of some kind of interaction pattern that all the students can get better at. So one of the ideas might be to write the magic E words on the board and have them drilled as a class. So I'll write not, na-ata, not, na-ota, note, and I'll drill it as a class. And depending on time-wise, maybe individually, but 9 students is quite a lot of students to kind of go through individually to check. So that's some idea to adjust some of those things. And then the classroom management, to go on to that topic, is I would give stars for each like activity that they do well, and take away stars if they misbehave. Most of the time I don't take it away, right? Like if they misbehave like once, I'll say, hey, I'll call out their name and I'll say, can we do that? Yes or no? And they'll just like, no. I'm like, bye stars. They're like, no. So I'll give them like maybe 2 or 3 chances, but then after that, I'll just take it away. There is one student that consistently misbehaves, and I actually don't give him that many chances. I just kind of take it away straight away, just to kind of emphasize it, and the other students see it, and then they kind of behave afterwards. So classroom management wise, one of the things that I can adjust that that for future, because the seating arrangement of the students, the 4 boys were sitting all next to each other, and they were frequently talking to each other, or like just doing little things like standing up out of their chair and moving the flashcard and then going back straight back when I turn my head. So I was thinking about putting a boy girl seating arrangement. Since it's 5 girls and 4 boys, I would probably put the boys at the end, at the very sides of the since they're sitting in one row, so 9 students sitting in one row, I would put the boys at the very end, so the only person they can interact with is a girl next to them. So I would put the 2 loudest boys on the ends, and then I might put like 2 girls or something, or 1 or 2 girls right next to it, so that there's a larger gap between him and the next boy. So that is something that I will do for this specific class, since they tend to, the boys tend to have a lot of energy, and they're very active. So that's something for the seating arrangement that I'll do for next class for this one, and because I don't normally have this issue with my other classes, but this class, it kind of changed over time. Like 2 months ago, like maybe 1 or 2 months ago, this class was much more, I think it was smaller as well. Like it wasn't up to 9, so it was like 5 or 6 per class, and it was very easy to manage at that time, and it was not difficult at all. But I think that the class got bigger, and then it just kind of spiraled into this big big thing. But I think the big classes versus small, so like 6 and under for young learners versus like where you have 8 or 9 young learners at the same time with no TA to help you makes it a bigger challenge. The TA does need to be experienced on how to handle the situations, because if they're just not trained, then it's also not helpful, because they can kind of get in your way a little bit because they don't know the flow of the class and the small details that they should do. So and then towards the end we do book work, and the book work, it was basically they had to color in, they had to basically ask 4 classmates, 4 friends, they had to ask them, what do you like doing and why. So I was trying to explain that concept to them using as simple language as possible, so I have to downgrade my language, and they just really didn't understand that what I was trying to explain to them, and it's probably my fault as well, my lack of experience on explaining it. So this activity, I might need to adjust a little bit on how to do it, or explain it better, because it was very challenging to get them to do it, and essentially none of them actually understood what I was trying to tell them, because basically you want to pair them up. So I'll say 1 2 1 2, you're together, together, and then ask. I To adjust it for the future, maybe I do it where I have a demonstration with 2 students, and then I'll show circle, like show them whatever the answer they give, they circle like riding my bike or reading. So they'll circle the specific hobby that the student likes. It was quite tough to anytime there's like a interaction pattern and you're trying to explain the interaction pattern with young learners, it's been challenging for me. I've been trying to figure out a good way to do it. I'm sure that more experienced teachers have a better way to get them to do it. But also, I think if these students have a routine and know this routine of what to do, it gets easier. So that's for this specific class. I do have a lot of things that I can work on and improve for this specific class. I think that this class eventually will move into primary school, and then, or maybe they're already in primary school starting this year, but they'll kind of go into a higher level class. So we'll kind of see. This specific topic was hobbies, and it's like a 2-part question for these. And I might start integrating other activities to make it more interactive, because I've been really using the fly swatter game a lot for a lot of my young learners classes, so I can probably adjust it and use some different games to make it more interactive for the students, so they're not always sitting there feeling fidgety. So for the next episode, I will go over some other things, potentially another breakdown of another class that I've taught, and some ideas that I have for improvements. All right, thank you for listening. See you next time.